Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first junior knockouts here at the Nationals. And gracing us on stage, we have Jamhuri High School and St. Ignatius Mukumu boys dissecting the motion that reads, Africa should adopt stricter data privacy laws to protect its citizens in this era of digital economy. I'll read the motion again. Africa should adopt stricter data privacy laws to protect its citizens in this era of digital economy. Proposing the motion, we have Jamhuri High School, and opposing the motion, we have St. Ignatius Mukumu boys. All the best to both teams on stage. I'll be your host for today, Hamza Hussein. With that said, for a speaker team proposition, you have 3 minutes.
Now, starting in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, forget about Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the creation of earth. Come to debate chapter 1, verse 1, the creation of team opposition. It says, in the beginning, team opposition was without form and statistics, and darkness was upon their face. But then came the spirit of team proposition and said, let there be light. And there was light, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Reverend William Benjamin from the great Jamhuri High School to preach today's sermon, which says Africa should adopt stricter data privacy laws to protect its citizens in this era of digital economy. Hallelujah. Now, on to the definitions. What is the meaning of stricter? Now, stricter, the motion advocates that data privacy laws should be made more stringent than the existing ones. Meaning, we have these strict laws, but we need to make them more stricter. Now, what is the meaning of data privacy laws? These are legal regulations that govern the collection, storage, processing, and sharing of data, of personal data, individuals' privacy. What is the meaning of digital economy? Now, this is an economy that is done digitally and using technological devices such as internet and phones. So, digital economy is categorized under 5 categories. Number 1, we have the e-commerce platforms, which include apps such as Alibaba, Jumia, and Amazon. We have social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and X. We have cloud service providers as that category, which includes Microsoft and cloud services. We have platform number 4, which says payment platforms such as PayPal, M-Pesa, and Flutterwave. Then we have digital advertising platforms such as Google, Facebook ads. Now, what is the necessity of these stricter data privacy laws? Why do we have this motion? How have we met here today? Now, number 1 is we talk about increasing digital activities. Now, with the rise in internet and mobile phone usage in Africa, more data is being collected, stored, processed, and shared. As to 2023, it shows that Africa internet penetration was at 43%. 43%. This is to increase to 50% by 2025, with 590 million users of internet. Now, this is a good thing, but what is the problem? Ladies and gentlemen, the problem is with this increase of digital activities comes increase in cyber crimes. So, cyber crime is estimated to cost African economies a whopping $3.5 billion. This is equivalent to 4.45 trillion Kenyan shillings. Ladies and gentlemen, where will we get this money? Hello? We talk about existing gaps. Now, many African countries lack appropriate data protection laws. It is said that out of 54 countries in Africa, only 24, ladies and gentlemen, only 24 have appropriate data protection legislation. Now, the question is, what about the citizens in other 30 countries? What about their data protection? Don't they deserve the right of their data to be protected? Don't they? They deserve it. But what team opposition are doing is rebuked in Amos chapter 3, verse 11 to 15, which says oppression of the weak. And ladies and gentlemen, the punishment is fire or exile, but we care. So we will take them to exile. Now, brothers and sisters, here comes manna from heaven. We talk about enhanced consumer trust as I'm winding up, which we say that Kenya Data Protection Act 2019 led to a 24% increase in digital services. Now, this worked in just 1 year. Imagine if we put this that worked in Kenya, if we put it in Africa, it will be a huge major comeback for us as Africa. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I finish my sermon. We will meet after the debate. Thank you.
They say that the early bird catches the worm, but I prefer to sleep in and catch the headlines. Today, let's talk about what happens when we challenge the norms. Daniel Kulemo from Mukumu Boys High School will guide you under this beautiful motion of data privacy. Just sit back and enjoy. Before I start defending this motion, let me contextualize the key terms in this motion. The motion says Africa should adopt stricter data privacy laws to protect its citizens in this era of digital economy. So, first of all, what is data privacy? It is securing individual personal information, and this motion, I'm not here to I'm not here to support this motion. I rebuke and condemn it. So let me go to my first point: economic growth and innovation. So strict law could hinder startup companies, and they might face increased cost and regulatory burdens. So let us see companies like Uber. Uber faced compliances with PDP, that is the personal data personal data protection bill in India. So the Uber company faced challenges. They had regulatory burdens from the PDPB, and these stricter data privacy laws may hinder economic growth and innovation, which it may interfere with the business. On to my second portion, implementation challenges. As you know, many African countries may lack the infrastructure and resources needed to effectively implement and enforce stringent data privacy laws. We know Africa, 99% of the countries in Africa are developing countries. So why should we burden these countries, trying to burden it with, to implement data privacy laws? Why? Why should we burden ourselves? We should avoid this burden to these African countries. On to my second point, the consumer behavior. All of us, I know we use the internet, and there are rules and regulations we are being given by this organization or by this internet. For example, when I want to open an account in Facebook or on Instagram, they give me regulatory. So as a consumer, I should not leak my information, or I should know how to use the internet as an individual. So as I go to see it, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift, that's why it's the present. So let us change the today before it turns to a history. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I quote the words of Michael Jackson. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's not give in. Luke Cargo, your doctor for the day from the great Jamhuri High School, here to strongly propose the motion of dissection. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they came and spoke of burdens. They said yesterday is history and blah. Well, I come and say yesterday is history, today is history. Read your history books, you'll know how to do research. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they spoke of something called a burden. Burdens on countries in Africa. Now, we will give you the framework that you require, even before you ask for it. Ladies and gentlemen, before I dive down into my points, let me explain to you how all this will be implemented. Now, number one, how will these stricter laws be implemented, ladies and gentlemen, in Africa? One, we will have what we call legislative framework. So we will draft comprehensive laws and involve stakeholders, e.g. government agencies and international corporations. Now, that is where we kick out the burden. Two, we will establish regulatory bodies. Now, creation of data protection authorities to enforce these laws. They have not spoken about them and how these laws will be enforced, and they're already arguing. Two, we will have capacity building in terms of training for these people so that even in the places where these stricter laws cannot be implemented, they will be implemented. They still could not get to that. And 3, public awareness education. They do not even know about their rights. Now, it is our job to educate the citizens on their rights and under these data privacy laws. They fail to understand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before this disease gets to stage 4, let the surgery begin. Protection of personal data is my first point. Now, stricter data privacy laws significantly reduce the risk of data breaches and cybercrimes. Now, personal data, when mishandled, can lead to severe consequences such as 1, identity theft, 2, financial fraud, and 3, loss of personal privacy. Now, what are the aims of stricter data laws? 1 is achieving accountability, 2, achieving confidentiality, and 3, economic growth as a factor. Now, protection of personal data. People want their data protected, made stricter. Now, according to a report by IBM Security, the average cost of a data breach at 2020 is $4.45 million US. This is a lot. I mean, and then they come and say that it will bring a burden. We have given them what we call partnerships with government aids and international corporations. Now, let me explain to you how this will work. The Protection of Personal Information Act, enacted in South Africa in the year 2016, has significantly led to its growth. And as you can see, South Africa is really succeeding with these laws. 2, empowering citizens. Now, data privacy laws give citizens control over their personal information, including right to access, right to correct, and right to delete their data. Now, a study by Cisco revealed that 84% of consumers in Africa care about privacy with more control over their data. Now, they fail to understand the different types of digital worlds. The only argument they have brought to the table is stories of burdening, but they forget there's something we call a digital economy, digital society, and digital commerce. I advise you to do your research, and that will meet in time of prescription. Thank you.
Wow, I'm so amazed. The Masans are arguing with their elders. I hope I taught you some manners. I'm shell-shocked to see that you're so confident about this motion. But trust me, from the look of things, you're so confident. But too much of confidence will lead you into trouble. When you talk about creating regulatory bodies, do you know that these regulatory bodies require some amount to be implemented? Where will the money be gained? Also, the first speaker also talked about where will the money be got? Where will the government or the institution get money in order to implement these laws? Do you know that among the African countries, there is some amount of money that has been set aside to deal with such issues? So, money isn't a problem. Then, about the motion, I, Londanga Dismas from Mukumu Boys, will strongly like to oppose the motion that goes, Africa should adopt stricter laws to protect its citizens in the era of the digital economy. The key term on this motion is stricter, not strict. Stricter laws is what we are talking about. But lucky for you, I'm here to impart some knowledge in you because you lack knowledge. On to my first point. Existing frameworks. There are existing frameworks that deal with such laws. For example, in South Africa, the POPIA, which is a platform that has been set aside to deal with such laws to prevent data from leaking. Then what is the need of creating more? What is its impact? On to my second point, economic slowdown. Implementing such laws is more costful. For example, there won't be a competition between the smaller companies and the large-scale companies. This is because the large-scale companies have more money to implement such laws. What about the smaller ones? What will happen to them? That's the question, and it still stands. According to IAPP informed that companies spent an average of $1.3 million to just implement such laws. Don't you think that this large amount of money can be used to do something else? There are many families outside here in Africa suffering. Can't we help them with this such money than implementing laws that won't be helpful? Stricter laws. On to my third point, consumer choice. This consumer choice will reduce competition among companies. Hence, these companies won't deal the correct way and won't do it the informed way. This is what we call knowledge. Thank you, and I rest my case.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we send in preachers, we send in doctors, but team opposition still shake their head in the negative. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they forced the farmer out of his farm, and my work here is pretty simple. They are uprooting of unsubstantial weed-like points brought forth by my opponents. You see, as team opposition, we are making a stand on the fact that Africa is experiencing more data loss and breaches which are crucial for the running of the digital economy of Africa. And that's why we want more strict data policies which can be able to protect our data privacy against being taken by other companies. So, ladies and gentlemen, as team opposition, we bring you a framework. Now, what is our framework? We bring on the implementation of the privacy data laws. Now, my first speaker talked about legislative framework. Now, he talked about how we can be able to draft the comprehensive laws. Now, if we want to put more laws in Africa, we need to draft laws which will handle the cases which are in Africa right now. And we also talked about involving stakeholders. Now, my second speaker went on and talked about establishing regulatory bodies. Now, we want people to be able to manage these new laws in Africa, right? Now, we need a body which can be able to sustain all the laws being put in Africa. Now, we talked about public awareness education. Now, we want people to know what these laws are talking about and how they can be able to help them. That is why we're talking about public awareness education. Now, I talk about phased implementation. Now, the second speaker, team opposition, talked about economic impact on the companies. Now, if we get to put phased implementation of these laws, we can be able to put laws which are more crucial first in running of Africa, then we can be able to make the companies to adapt to these laws. Now, the fifth one of our implementation is challenges and considerations. They talk about resource constraints. Now, how can we be able to handle resource constraints of the companies? Now, we will be able to put in international aid from the Western countries, Asia, and other forms of countries which can be able to help our country in the running of these new laws. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you an example of a country in Africa that has implemented stricter data privacy laws and now they are running smoothly. Now, an example is Ghana. Ghana's Data Protection Act, GDPA 2020, mandates the establishment of the Data Protection Commission and outlines principles for data protection, including the collection, storage, and processing and sharing of personal data. Now, achievements of Ghana. Now, Data Protection Commission. The Data Protection Commission has conducted numerous public education campaigns and compliance audits to ensure adherence to the Data Protection Act 2020, and over 2,000 data controllers and processors have registered with the Data Protection Commission. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is the impact of these data laws in the digital economy of Africa? We all know that Africa has the potential of gaining a big digital economy. Now, this digital economy is being stunned by insufficient data protection. Now, if we can be able to boost this, we can be able to implement these new laws, we can be able to boost our digital economy in Africa. We want Africa to be on top with the EU Union. Now, the first speaker talked about economic burden on the companies. Now, the SMEs will be able to get international aid from other forms of companies. Now, we want we don't want them to use their own money, but we'll be able to gain international aid from these companies. Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case.
Wow, once again, I find it so refreshing to hear ideas that challenge conventional wisdom. In front of you is Omia Raphael from St. Ignatius Mukumu Boys, representing the Team Shakers, ready to strongly oppose the motion in the House today. Wow, what a live church, what a lively church service today. As recorded in the debate, the book of Jamhuri in chapter 1, verse 10, states that before the true light comes, darkness will stand and lies will be spread. But gifted are you to see me today, for I'm here to give you true facts and light. Third speaker talked about other forms which are going to back up the SMEs. Which other forms? Please, we want facts and not rumors. Now, we were talking about stricter privacy laws, data laws, to be enforced. Do you know that South Africa, we have the Pope here, but according to the Kaspersky 2021 research, it shows that South Africa is among the 3 countries in Africa that are facing the 28 million malware attacks in Africa right now. So how is the impacting or adopting stricter data privacy laws are going to help if it has not worked in South Africa? Now, today I want us to focus on digital literacy. It is evident that a report given by the UNESCO highlighted that only 40% of the adults in sub-Saharan Africa possess digital literacy. What about the 60%? And I guess the 60%, I'm talking about most of them are the boomers, the Gen X, and the millennials, some of them, I guess. So, you know, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Imagine if we took this matter to our hands and it started with individual action. We all know that out here we have computer gurus, we have hackers. These people sit on computers from morning to night. If you put this law today, he'll be there to hack that code tomorrow and he'll crack it. So I say that it's up to an individual action. That means that we are supposed to educate. We are supposed to impact digital literacy on African citizens, whereby they'll be able to secure their own data, their own information, and they learn on the basic. We are not only concentrated about the large scale, but I'm also talking about the common mwananchi, the common mama mboga who uses M-Pesa, and after a customer is paid, he tends to reverse the money. I'm talking about that person. So we are not only considering about the large scale companies, or we're also considering about the local people. So take into mind. And according to, just to back up on what the first speaker said, economic burden, I know I'm out of time, but just a second. It says that the SMEs, according to the PwC, in alliance with the GDPR, cost companies an average of $1.3 million. Wow, that's so huge for the SMEs. This means that the innovations will be low if they are going to invest such a large amount of money on something that they know or we don't know if it's going to work. So I think we should base on facts. Thank you so much. Game over.
Ladies and gentlemen, they came and spoke about taxation. Now, let me give you the contents of a digital economy and a digital society. Now, under digital economy, you have virtual currencies, electronic payments, digital signatures, data flows, digital divide, and taxation, as they stated. But this motion talks about data privacy. So what is the major part in this motion? We are talking about digital divide. And what is under digital divide? Data breaches. Now, they said that they do not want data breaches, which is why we are making this policy stricter. They want to pay a whopping $4.55 million, while they know the African government cannot even afford to pay for their research. Ladies and gentlemen, we are dying in debt. That is one. They fail to understand that. Now, on to the results. He came and said game over. Now, let me say surgery on. Now, according to the test results, they suffered from a disease we called LOPF, which stands for lack of proper framework. I hope you understand, my brother. Now, the next thing they came and gave us was lies. Now, let me take you to the math. 2 times 3, what is that? 6. 6 lies. Now, according to the Jamhuri Bureau of Statistics, Team Opposition have contributed to 99% of the lies given in this room. It is unbelievable. Now, we the 1% of the truth, what do we advocate for? We advocate for stricter data policies. They have not given us a solution. They came and gave us the problems. As I said, it's easy for an African man to find the problem, but finding the solution is like searching for fire in water. Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. I have been your doctor for the day. Thank you.
Once again, in front of you stands greatness, and I know the preposition, you can feel it. There's no need to keep on supporting the lie, and you know that you can stand in the side of the light. You can't die with darkness, okay? So, we've talked about economic burdens on businesses. We talked about challenges in enforcing. And we've given a better method enforcing digital literacy, which I think is a better idea. And talking about lies, 2 times 3 is 6, but what about the multiple of 3? That is 3 times 3. How many? I guess you don't know. So go and do your research very well. And I'm not supporting the motion that Africa should adopt stricter data privacy laws to protect its citizens in this era of digital economy, because we also put in consideration other things like resources and, increased data breaches and cyber attacks. Thank you so much, and I rest my case.
Africa should adopt stricter data privacy laws to protect its citizens in this era of digital economy. Both teams have indeed laid a very solid argument, so I'm going to go individual so that we can see areas that we did right and what we need to improve. Now, Reverend William Benjamin, you gave us very, solid statistics, 43%, 3.5 billion, but you do not have sources to your argument. Somebody will accuse you of cooking. So it's important for you to cite your sources in order to make your information more credible. But then you're a very, a passionate debater, and your stage presence is wonderful. You're a debater with a lot of potential. Then just that bit of, you also took too long on the introduction. And then when you give a summary of the team's argument, don't take so long. Actually, that summary should come at the end. So rebuttal, give your points, and then summarize the team's argument. Is that okay? But you're a coherent debater, and you have a lot of passion and conviction. Now, Raphael, you stood out for me in that team. I liked your stage presence, your attention to rebuttaling, and the bit of bringing on board data, digital literacy. And now, when you tell us digital literacy, it's important for you to give, again, examples, global examples where this has worked, regional examples that will give you a better score. As I always say, it's a learning experience. All the best. Thank you.